Zamfara State Governor reinstates Emir of Brilin Yandoto 9 months after banning notorious bandit. NDLEA operatives arrest 2 suspects going for lesser hajj in Saudi Arabia for allegedly attempting to export 14.4 kilograms of cocaine. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi accuses politicians of sowing seeds of discord amongst Nigerians. On the foreign scene, several countries evacuate diplomats and citizens from Sudan's capital as fierce fighting continues in Khartoum. Good evening, this is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. My name is Okpayemuni. We begin from Zamfara State, where Governor Bello Matawalle has reinstated the Emir of Brilin Yandoto Emirate, Aliyu Marafa, 9 months after conferring a traditional title to one of the most dreaded bandits, kingpins of the state, Ado Aliero. The Emir was asked to step aside last July following a public outcry that greeted the appointment of a bandit. But in a statement today, Secretary to the State Government, Kabiru Balarabe, said the suspended Emir was reinstated because he was not found guilty of the offense he was accused to have committed when he appointed Aliero to the rank of Fulani leader. The statement said his reinstatement is based on the recommendations of a committee constituted to investigate all issues pertaining to the conferment of a traditional title to the repentant bandit. According to the statement, based on the findings, the traditional title was conferred on the repentant bandit as part of peaceful building efforts between repentant bandits and banditry-affected communities in Safe and Gusau local government areas, which include Yandoto town. 2 suspects, Ari B. Olasende and Silifat Akombi, who are going for lesser hajj in Saudi Arabia, have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, in Lagos. A statement today by the NDLEA spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, said they were arrested for allegedly attempting to export 14.4 kilograms of cocaine concealed in lace and Ankara fabrics. The statement said Aribi was intercepted on April 20th, while Silifat was arrested a day earlier during outward clearance of Qatar Airways passengers from Lagos to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. In the same vein, NDLEA officers attached to courier companies intercepted 2 drug consignments consisting of ecstasy and skunk going to the United Arab Emirates. Mr. Babafemi said while the pills of ecstasy were concealed in a gold-color wedding gown, the skunk was hidden in a microcontroller. He also said a 400-level marine engineering student at the Niger Delta University, Amasoma, Bayelsa State, Kelvin Ogenedolo, was arrested at the university's gate for dealing in skunk. The agency made the other arrest in Kaduna, Adamawa, and Edo states.
After there's a time, what will be the other one? What will be the other one? Common one. That's there's another 24 million
In Abia State, the governor-elect Alex Oti says he has noted with disappointment the People's Democratic Party's unfortunate resort to threats of violence and terrorism against Abia people since it was defeated by the Labour Party in the just concluded general election. Dr. Oti, in a statement by special media aide Ferdinand Ekioma, said the Abia government's recent actions are a deliberate attempt to create anxiety amongst the populace. He said the most targeted sector is the workforce, which continues to suffer untold hardship in the hands of the state as a result of several months of unpaid salaries in a bid to pitch them against him. The Abia governor-elect reassured Abia people that he is ready to hit the ground running as governor starting May 29th, 2023, and will do all within the law to ensure the protection of lives and property of the citizenry. He urged parents and guardians to restrain their children, words, and loved ones from being used as agents of violence by the outgoing government. Turning to the Eid al-Fitr celebrations, Muslim faithful have been urged to consolidate the lessons learned during the period of Ramadan by not going back to evil, but sustain the faith and fear of the Almighty. This message was passed by chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in Osun State, Alhaji Azim Adebowale, who also called on Muslims to always remember to abide by the laws of Allah. Meanwhile, ahead of the transition of government, Alhaji Adebowale also called on President-elect Bola Tinubu to surround himself with positive-minded people. On the spot, lawmaker-elect for Ede South State constituency, Taufik Olayiwola, echoed the words of clerics and urged the Muslims to adhere to the lessons learned during Ramadan. While commending Governor Ademola Adeleke's achievements since his inauguration, he promised to pass bills towards alleviating poverty and making life more meaningful to the people of Osun State. The federal government had earlier declared Friday, April 21st and Monday, April 24th, 2023 as public holidays to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration.
Being of God is to put into practice what we have learned during the holy month of Ramadan, and to always do away with any act of sins, any act of irregularities in the in the town, in the community, and in the country. We will encourage them to please be of God. Don't go back to where you are coming from. It's a way of devil. My message to our incoming president is that he should be surrounded by people that are very conversant to what is happening in the country. The major problem we have with this present government is that he does not have righteous people around him. He does not have around him those that can give him a very good advice. I will encourage him to be surrounded by those that can put him through, that can assist him in a very good governance.
It is the only month of this Ramadan that people know that others are suffering and that they have to give. So I just want to appeal to our people that we should let the spirit continue so that we will be elevating the position of the masses and the poor. When we elevate the position of the masses and the poor, in fact, we are helping ourselves because the crime rate too will be reduced and then we all live in peace. Apart from party sentiment, about whether I'm a PDP man or not a PDP man, it's so obvious that we can see the glaring differences between the past government and this one. In the last 12 years, we have experienced a lot of things negatively in this state. One can easily conclude that the governor is trying to ameliorate our situation met on ground. As a lawmaker, I'm looking at a situation whereby we'll be able to work hand in hand with the governor, fashion out policies that could be of serious assistance to the community, propose bills, motions that could be tailored towards eradicating poverty and making life more meaningful to our people. Don't forget we have the oversight functions too. And we are supposed to be as the check and balances on the executive. These are the areas we are targeting.
In the meantime, presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the February 25th general election, Peter Obi, has said politicians are using politics to sow seeds of discord amongst Nigerians. Mr. Obi said this in Onitsha, Anambra State, today when he visited the Muslim community to celebrate the Salah holiday. He noted that Nigerians are one, but once the political season comes on stream, some desperate politicians who want to reap from where they did not sow always bring segregation by wanting to divide the citizens along tribal and religious lines. The former Anambra State governor donated bags of rice, cartons of noodles, and packs of soft drinks to the Muslim community and prayed to Allah to accept their fasting and sacrifices. Earlier, Chief Imam of Onitsha Central Mosque, Alhaji Abdurrahman Imam, commended Mr. Obi, saying he remained the only governor in the state who visited members of a Muslim community at every celebration to felicitate with them. Italian ambassador to Nigeria, Stefano Di Leo, says his country would seek a close relationship with the incoming administration in Africa's largest democracy. In an interview with NAN, Mr. DeLeo said Italy considered Nigeria as one of its major economic and security partners in Africa. According to the envoy, Italy would seek to work closely with the new administration to improve the level of bilateral and multilateral cooperation involving the two countries. Mr. DeLeo said uncertainty, crime rate, violence, and security issues are top on the agenda for both nations, stating that both countries need to find common and inclusive solutions. And now to education, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, today said it would continue the registration of direct entry until after the conduct of a unified tertiary matriculation examination and the national census. JAMB spokesman Fabian Benjamin disclosed this in a statement, saying no candidate desirous of deregistration will be denied the opportunity to register, provided they comply with the board's directives and within the stipulated time frame. He said the deregistration was initially scheduled to hold on Thursday, April 20th, but was extended by 1 week to Saturday, May 6th, when the 2023 UTME and the national census exercise would have ended. He urged candidates desiring to register for the D exercise to ensure that they obtain their e-pins from designated vending outlets on or before April 30th, when e-pin vending would close. According to Mr. Benjamin, candidates are then expected to proceed to the board's offices to complete the registration procedure. Elsewhere, about 6 persons died today following an auto crash around the popular Kara Bridge along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It was gathered that the incident happened in quick succession, from the bus somersaulting to it bursting into flames, leading to the fatalities. According to eyewitnesses, the dead victims were the bus driver, 2 children, and 3 women. Deputy Corps Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps in Lagos, Lucas Ogutade, said rescue efforts were still ongoing. He explained that while some casualties were recorded, some victims were rescued and have been taken to the hospital for medical attention. The official, however, explained that the Commission has begun a probe into the incident with a view to avoiding a reoccurrence soon. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, several countries evacuate diplomats and citizens from Sudan's capital as fierce fighting continues in Khartoum. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
On 16th September 1923, named Harry Lee Kwan and known as Lee Kuan Yew, he was often addressed by his initials of LKY. Lee Kuan Yew was a barrister and the first Prime Minister of Singapore between 1959 and 1990. Educated at Raffles Institution from 1936 to 1940 and the Fitzwilliam House between 1947 and 1949, Lee Kuan Yew established a highly effective and anti-corrupt governance system that midwives the transformation of Singapore into a high net worth income economy within a generation. He never hid his exception to Western mode democratic ideal, which he believed had not assisted developing nations to attain good government. Before his death on 23rd March 2015, the People's Action Party, which he founded, had used its political influence to establish the United World College of Southeast Asia to expand his economic ideas among countries that constitute the Asian Tiger. Western Spring Television identifies Lee Kuan Yew as a major character in history. The Korean War of 1950 to 1953 pitched North and South Korea against each other in response to intrigues by nations beyond their border with different interests from those canvassed by the two brother nations. The Korean War had all the nuances of an external conflict induced by powers that were interested in subjugating North and South Korea. Japan had leveraged on its military power to annex Korea in 1900 and imposed a military union that did not sit well with the citizens. Japan not only lost its war of conquest against Korea, all its powers were obliterated by the effect of the World War II. The end of World War II got Korea divided into two nations along 38th parallel lines by the instrumentality of the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The Korean War lapsed into a Cold War when it stopped the prying eyes of external forces into the internal affairs of a nation now divided along its north and southern territories. Western Spring Television identifies the Korean War as a major event in history. Named Mao Zedong at birth, but globally known as Mao Zedong, he was a Chinese revolutionary and founder, People's Republic of China, which he led as chairman of the Chinese Communist Party from 1949 until his death in 1976. He was a communist who believed in the attainment of power by the instrumentality of gun. His wise saying, "Political power grows out of the barrel of gun," formed the major plank of his revolutionary struggle for the control of China. In the long span of his leadership and political power, Mao Zedong relentlessly entrenched the communist philosophy in China, which emphasized the revolutionary struggle of the vast majority of people against the exploiting class and their state structures. The communist leaders defined the class struggle as people's war. Mao Zedong was a story of grass to grace, having risen from peasantry to preeminent status as China's most respected leader. Western Spring Television identifies Mao Zedong as a major character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history.
Welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. Zamfara State Governor reinstates Emir of Brittany Yandato 9 months after the banning notorious bandage. NDLA operatives arrest 2 suspects going for lesser hajj in Saudi Arabia for allegedly attempting to export 14.4 kilograms of cocaine. Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi accuses politicians of sowing seeds of discord amongst Nigerians. On the foreign scene, several countries evacuate diplomats and citizens from Sudan's capital as fierce fighting continues in Khartoum. The All Progressives Congress, APC, has dissolved its presidential campaign council set up to undertake the just concluded presidential elections. The dissolution of a campaign council was contained in a statement by its Director General Simon Lalong, and its Secretary James Faleke. President Muhammadu Buhari was chairman of the council and was present on a number of campaign stops for Bola Tinubu, who is now president-elect. The party stated that dissolving the PCC became necessary towards the May 29th inauguration of Senator Tinubu's administration. Hearings by Osun communities for the state government's assistance to fix the deteriorating condition of inner roads in their localities have been on the increase of late. One part of the state with a strident call for government's urgent intervention is the Ganga and Okero communities in the Repodun local government area, as the roads are in a terrible state, forcing them to go through difficulties. Joseph Atewe completes the story.
Residents of Ganga and Okearo communities in the Repodun local government area of Osun State has over 10 years faced the difficulty of easy movement because of a terrible road that connects their towns to the main city of Ilobu. The residents in their numbers disclosed that they are enduring untold hardship and a huge economic loss owing to the dilapidable nature of the road, which sometimes costs them thousands of naira due to its bad state. Connecting to the main road of Ilobu before now usually takes motorists and commuters alike 5 minutes, but now it takes them up to 30 minutes, and when it rains, it takes up to an hour, and most times they are forced to go to the extreme end of the town to look for their bikes and belongings, as the rain often washes them away. The chairman of both communities, Mr. Salam Abdul Ghaffar and Alhaji Bashiru, disclosed that for years residents of these communities have done everything possible to construct the road, but the cost leaves them hanging. They also disclosed that they have written several letters to the government, but everything fell on deaf ears.
The
rain has spoiled everything. We have been going through this for more than 10 years. Since the rain washed this road off, once it rains, we go the extra mile, like 12 kilometers before getting home. Sometimes like 12 years ago, this road became worse. We members of the communities have tried our best to repair the roads, but no avail. Once it rains, we are in trouble.
So after that, I lost local government.
We wrote to the local government, but they said they are not financially capable.
We also gathered that vehicle owners have since abandoned their cars at home and now left at the mercy of commercial motorcycle riders to navigate their ways. Also, business owners in the communities like Mrs. Adeshola Kende, who sells drinks, and Mrs. Balikis Arewolo, a colonel seller, they have seen their businesses on the brink of collapse, as no one is willing to pass through that route, which they describe as road to hell.
Because of this road,
I am a market woman. Because of this road, I stopped selling bottled drinks. Hence, I resorted to pet drinks. Because one of the trucks that brought drinks for me had an accident. Like 15 crates of their bottle got wasted.
There is no gain in what we sell again, unlike before. This road has cost us a lot. If you call bike riders and tell them you are going to Ganga community, they will say they are not going. They will say our roads are not good. We are begging the government to please assist us.
Mr. Tajuddin Olonwa, a resident of Ganga community, spent less than 100 naira to access the main city of Ilobu, but after the road got worse, he spends more than 5 times of the amount, and when it rains, it is better to sleep outside the community than face hell.
If you follow this route, we can't spend more than 100 naira. Once it rains, we have to go through another road that costs us a lot before we get to our houses. If you check well, cars are now parked at home.
Just recently, the administration of Governor Ademola Adeleke gave approval of the rehabilitation of major roads to ease the free flow of traffic and reduce wear and tear on people's cars. He also disclosed that internal roads will not be left untouched. Echoing the words of the governor was the special advisor to the governor on information, Honorable Oladele Bamiji, who urged residents of Ganga and Okeano communities to be calm, as the present administration will in no time attend to their needs by constructing inner roads and putting everything in shape.
Yes, the government is not unaware of the level of decay of the roads, the interland roads. We know what we have to do in that regard. But as government of the people, like I said, the people also will also come in. Some of these communities, government will work with them and set priorities, nominate which of these roads are of more of priority, and government will also work accordingly.
It is no news that poor road infrastructure in rural communities does not only affect production and distribution of goods, it also negatively impacts the development of these areas. Residents of Ganga and Okeanyo communities have now begged the Osun State government to please come to their aid before the rains comes fully. They say over the years, they have lost valuables worth millions of naira. Hence, they can't afford to do the same again, stating that life has been very difficult for them. Joseph Atewe, Western Spring Television News.
On the foreign scene, several countries have evacuated diplomats and citizens from Sudan's capital as fierce fighting continues to rage in Khartoum. United States and United Kingdom today announced that they had flown diplomats out of the country. Italy, Belgium, Turkey, Japan, and the Netherlands said they were also organizing evacuations starting today. A French convoy reportedly came under fire while trying to leave the embassy and had to turn back. Sudan's regular army and its opponents, a paramilitary force called the Rapid Support Forces, blamed each other for the attack. U.S. authorities said they had airlifted fewer than 100 people with Chinook helicopters today in a fast and clean operation. Although there is no formal ceasefire, it appears that the RSF agreed not to shoot at the American helicopters during their mission. The UK flew diplomats and their families, including some children, out of the country for an airfield outside Khartoum. Other UK nationals still in Sudan have been urged by the government to tell the Foreign Office where they are. But Foreign Minister James Cleverly said options to evacuate them were severely limited.
In response to escalating violence in Khartoum and because of specific threats and violence directed towards diplomats in Khartoum, we have taken the decision to temporarily close the British Embassy in Khartoum, to evacuate the British diplomats and their dependents and relocate our diplomatic functions into a nearby diplomatic post. We continue to work directly and through our international partners to call for a ceasefire and an end to this violence. The safety and protection of British nationals in Sudan remains a priority for us, a top priority for us, and we'll discharge that duty through our embassies based in the area in close coordination with our international friends and partners.
In the meantime, Pope Francis has called for dialogue between warring military factions in Sudan as a bloody outbreak of fighting entered a second week. The pontiff said during traditional prayers today at St. Peter's Square in Rome that the situation remains grave in Sudan, further pleading that the violence should stop as quickly as possible and for dialogue to resume. First battles between the Sudanese army and a paramilitary group, which has seen fighting with tanks in densely populated Khartoum, and airstrikes launched by fighter jets have killed more than 400 people and left thousands wounded. The fighting between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan's forces and the rival Rapid Support Forces of his former deputy, Mohamed Daglo, began on April 15th over a dispute on the planned integration of the RSF into the regular army. The move was a key condition of a deal aimed at restoring Sudan's democratic transition after the military toppled former leader Omar al-Bashir in April 2019, following mass protests. In Kenya, police have exhumed human remains from more than a dozen suspected graves in the east of the country amidst an investigation into followers of a Christian cult who believed they would go to heaven if they starved themselves to death. A detective in the town of Malindi, Charles Kamau, said police began exhuming bodies on Friday, where 15 members of a Good News International Church were rescued last week. It was gathered that 21 bodies had been found so far and that more could yet be uncovered. Preacher Paul Ntenge, is in custody pending a court appearance. One of his 58 graves that have been identified so far is believed to contain the bodies of 5 members of the same family, 3 children, and their parents. Mr. Mackenzie, who allegedly told his followers to stab themselves in order to meet Jesus, denied wrongdoing but has been refused bail. He insists that he shut down his church in 2019. Turning to Asia, Indian police have arrested Sikh separatist Amritpal Singh after searching for him for more than a month. The rise of Singh, a preacher in the northwestern state of Punjab, where Sikhs are the majority, has stoked fears of a return to violence of the 1980s and early 1990s. A top official in the Punjab police, Sukain Gill, told reporters today that Singh was arrested from the Road village in Moga district, Punjab, on the basis of specific intelligence. Singh and supporters armed with swords, knives and guns raided a police station in February after one of the preacher's aides was arrested for assault and attempted kidnapping. Police have accused him and his supporters of attempted murder, obstruction of law enforcement, and creating disharmony, and said he had been on the run since mid-March.
Pressure by Punjab Police from last 35 days, and all the wings of Punjab Police, they have worked in coordination for this special operation. I would just like to explain that NSA warrants were issued against Amritpal Singh, and NSA warrants have been executed today morning. Further, law will take its own course in this case. People in Punjab, they have maintained peace and harmony, and Punjab Police and especially Punjab government is thankful to the people of Punjab for maintaining communal peace, communal harmony during this period. Punjab Police is committed to maintain law and order in the state of Punjab. Any mischievous element spreading any type of rumor, they are warned to be careful and strict action would be taken against them.
In the United Kingdom, Jane Abbott has been suspended as a Labour Member of Parliament pending an investigation into a letter she wrote about racism to The Observer. In the letter published today, the politician said many types of white people with points of difference can experience prejudice, but they are not subject to racism all their lives. She later tweeted to say she was withdrawing her remarks and apologized for any anguish caused. Labour said the comments were deeply offensive and wrong. While reacting to the letter, Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said her comments were unacceptable.
I was sickened to read the letter that was published in today's Observer from Diane Abbott. Her comments are unacceptable. To diminish the racism, the anti-Semitism Jewish people face both today and over yesteryear beggars belief. Every year in our great country, unfortunately, there are more than 1,000 reports of anti-Semitism. I last Monday was at a Yom HaShoah event where we commemorated and remembered the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who lost their lives in the Holocaust. I was indeed with Holocaust survivors. Diane Abbott's comments are unacceptable. I'm too angry. I don't understand how anybody can think that, how anybody could say that, but even worse, write a letter to the Observer to publish that it's right she's apologised. The Labour Party's done the right thing to suspend her at beggars belief. Respect the due process that will have to follow because she's been suspended now. But I just don't understand how you can diminish what's happened to Jewish people today and in previous decades. It's arguably anti-Semitism, the oldest form of hatred there is. There needs to be an investigation. I don't want to inadvertently prejudice.
Still ahead, what bank says Nigeria's fiscal and debt pressures will increase if petrol subsidy is not phased out in June 2023. We have more on these and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal was born 6th of December 1910 at Raba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Dan Fodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white suprematists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. Born Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905, Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker, and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history.
Welcome back now to business. Socio-economic rights and accountability project SERAP has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to establish a presidential panel of inquiry to probe the allegations of missing 149 million barrels of crude oil. Revelation was made in the 2019 audited reports by the Auditor General of the Federation and Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI. In a statement today, SERAP's Deputy Director, Kolawole Oluwadare, urged President Buhari to ensure that those responsible were probed and prosecuted. The group said the government has 7 days to commence the probe or face legal action. The World Bank says Nigeria's fiscal and debt pressures will increase if petrol subsidy is not phased out in June 2023. In its recently released report entitled Macro Poverty Outlook for Nigeria, April 2023, the Bretton Woods Institute said oil price booms previously supported the Nigerian economy, but the situation has changed since 2021. Budgeting 3.35 trillion naira for the first half of 2023, the federal government had said it would end petrol subsidy payment by June. The government also said it would disburse the sum of $800 million secured from the World Bank to poor Nigerians as part of its plans to mitigate the effects of subsidy removal on the most vulnerable population in the country. In the report, the World Bank said macroeconomic stability has weakened amidst declining oil production, costly fuel subsidies, exchange rate distortions, and monetization of a fiscal deficit. The bank said the deteriorating economic environment has further pushed millions of Nigerians into poverty. Customers of the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company, IBDC, in the Osun Regional Hub have called on the company to up its game in delivering quality service and providing value for money. The customers who spoke on the sidelines of an event in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, also sought an end to erratic power supply, amongst other grievances. Emmanuel Udwadukele has the rest of the story.
Mr. Mohammed Abdul Wahid is one disgruntled customer of the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company (IBEDC). His first grouse is with the unavailability of meters.
We have already paid for prepaid meter, single phase, and we pay for 3 phase, and we are not satisfied for that meter. The first problem we have on that meter is that when we are loading the meter, the card, we are finding the card. Instead of accept the card, is reading rejected. It's reject that card.
Mr. Abdul Wahid is also dissatisfied with the quality of the meters, claiming that they are not up to standard.
When you are using that meter, when you are maintaining that meter, it's not the capacity of that meter not consume the lead that is entered the house. That output is not good. That meter is not good. It's not correct meter.
For Mrs. Christiana Abamigboye, her dissatisfaction is hinged on what she describes as poor customer service by IBEDC, and she believes this must change.
Nǹkan tí mo kàn rí pé kán tún improve fún àwọn customer so that àwọn customer wọn ò ní àwọn míì máa ń bínú ẹ mọ̀ pé ó yẹ kán ó ní irú àwọn staff ó yẹ kán ní time ó ní yẹ kán mọ̀ bọ́n ṣe máa dì pẹ̀lú each person ẹlòmíì lè máa gbé ìbínú bọ̀ wá láti ilé tó náà gbé tó débi kíní káwọn náà gbé ìbínú ṣe mọ̀ ìbínú ti ṣe ìbínú ṣùgbọ́n irú báyẹn ò ní lè àwọn á lè calm down so wọ́n á lè attend pé kán fi ìfẹ́ hàn ẹ understand kán máa fi ìfẹ́ hàn pé okay o sí kí nǹkan tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe lè yẹn so that àwọn customer ẹ tó ń gbé ìbínú bọ̀ yẹn náà á lè mọ̀ pé àwọn nípa àwọn náà ṣe wà caring.
Adebayo Adeoye, an IBDC customer resident in Osun, accuses the distribution company of deliberately making life hard for customers so as to maximize profit.
Wọ́n máa ń dá gbèsè bu aráàlú lọ́rùn ni ìdí ni o ìdí tí wọ́n fi ń dá gbèsè bu aráàlú lọ́rùn ò ní pé gbogbo àwọn meters tí wọ́n ń fún wa tá a bá ti gba mítà yẹn tán kò sí pé mítà yẹn a rí lò mọ́ gbogbo bá a ṣe wá ń lọ tá à ń bọ̀ láti bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ wọn à ṣetán láti dá wa lóhùn ètò tí a burú jù ni pé irú map meter tí mo gbà just recent gbogbo àkókò tí mo gbà kò tí ì ju bí ọ̀sẹ̀ mẹ́ta lọ máàpù yẹn mi rí lò báyìí.
Reacting to what the IBEDC says are illicit meters, Mr. Adeoye says the company is directly responsible for any such situations.
Èyí tá a wá ń sọ̀rọ̀ lé gan-an jù òní Unistar meter nítorí pé 2013 láti pé a fẹ́ gba mítà 14, 15, 16, 17 tí wọ́n fún wa ní mítà yẹn ìyẹn ni Unistar wá fi wọlé Unistar tó wá wọlé yẹn kò sí complain kan fún bẹ́ẹ̀ bá ti gbà báyìí ó ń lọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ètò wa burú jù ní tí wọ́n wá ń ṣe ni pé wọ́n wá láwọn ó máa já Unistar yẹn mo fẹ́ kí wọ́n bára wọn sọ̀rọ̀ dáadáa lórí Unistar kí wọ́n bá ti ń já Unistar kí wọ́n sì máa replace ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú mítà wọn ó dáa kó dáa
Another customer who lives in Oshogbo, identified simply as Chief Ajujagbara, points out the erratic power supply of the IBEDC.
Iná tí a ń pa lọ́nà tí ò lẹ́tọ̀ọ́, ó kó bá ọrọ̀ ajé. Ẹni tó bá paná fún yàn ọba sẹ́yìn federal government jẹ́. 2, ẹni bá paná fún yàn ọ̀pọ̀ yàn sáyé, ìdí tó fi pa yàn sáyé ni wípé àwọn tí fi ń tajà kó rúùmù àtàwọn tó fi ń jẹun kó tún sanjó níbàárà. 3, ìdí tó fi pa yàn sọ́run ni wípé táàmù gbà àwọn ògbóró paná mọ́ state hospital any hospital tó jẹ́ pé tẹ̀gbọ́n tẹ́ ń sọ operation lọ́wọ́ kó wo ẹ̀mí tó ti lọ ìdí tó ti pọ́ pa yàn sọ́run nìyẹn. 4, ẹni tó paná fún yàn wọ́n paná fún olè kó wá jí amọ́rùkẹ́bù tú tó tí wọ́n bá paná olè kan olè bọ́ bí wáyà kó jí tú. kápẹ́ IBEDC ní ra wáyà yẹn ni tí ìṣe kọ́sítọ́mà ní ra wáyà kò rẹ̀ sínú òfin pé kọ́sítọ́mà ra wáyà wọn ò ní máa paná lọ́nà tí ò lẹ́tọ̀ọ́.
He also points out what he says is the vindictive nature of IBEDC staff in dealing with both innocent and defaulting customers.
lórí ọ̀rọ̀ náà ti ń yọrù ta sọ́mbà pé wọ́n jẹ́wọ́ wọn jẹ́wọ́ kẹ́bìrì sí lọ gba staff tó mú tó ọ̀rọ̀ náà wọn kí wọ́n fìyà já aláìṣẹ̀ ẹni tí ò jẹ́wọ́ lọ́pọ̀ jù náà wọ́n ti yọ náà rẹ̀ kò bá òfin Nàìjíríà mu láti fìyà jẹ aláìṣẹ̀. so wọ́n fún wa ní batch A wọ́n ní 71 naira 32 kọ́bọ̀ ó sọ pé a lò náà fún 20 hours kí wọ́n pé 4 hours mọ́ àwọn tó fún ní batch 12 batch B wọ́n fún ní 58 naira something wọ́n ní 12 hours wọ́n pé 4 hours gan mọ́ bí agbára bí rí sọ̀bà ká energy ten supply wọ́n dà padà sí tàrífù táwọn ló tẹ̀lé 24 naira 97 kọ́bọ̀.
The aggregation of these concerns point to the fact that majority of the customers of the Ibadan Electricity Distribution Company have 1 or 2 axes to grind with the company. They hope their complaints will be attended to and that the company can improve the quality of its services. Emmanuel Ujadigele, Western Spring Television News.
Still in business, some Twitter accounts with more than 1 million followers have had their blue tick badges reinstated by Twitter without paying to subscribe. Beyonce, Hurricane, Richard Osman, and Victoria Beckham amongst those to have their blue tick back. Before the platform was bought by Elon Musk, the blue tick was a badge of verification given for free by Twitter. It was originally used as a tool of authentication designed to help stop fake accounts and the spread of misinformation. Now, it is a symbol that an account has subscribed to a premium service called Twitter Blue, and there is a verification process attached with making the payment. There are various processes depending on where the subscription is made, but it is around $8 per month. Welcome to sports. The Golden Eagles have traveled to Algeria for the 2023 Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations and are scheduled to arrive in Constantine later tonight for their final preparations for the competition. 26 players and technical crew members made a trip to the North African country for the competition. The Golden Eagles are drawn in Group B with Zambia, Morocco, and South Africa. Nduka Ogbade's side will play all their group stage matches at the Amlou Stadium, Constantine. Super Eagles defender Tyrone Eboye played all 90 minutes as Inter Milan trashed Empoli 3-0 in today's Serie A early kickoff game. The Nigerian international, who has made 20 appearances, has netted 2 goals and bagged 1 assist this season. Inter Milan took the lead in the 40th minute through Romelu Lukaku's brilliant goal before he grabbed a brace in the 76th minute. Inter took the game beyond Empoli's reach as Lautaro Martinez netted the 3rd goal thanks to an assist from Belgian international. The victory means Inter Milan moved to 5th on 54 points, while Empoli remained 15th on 34 points on the league table. In England, Newcastle United humiliated Tottenham Hotspur with 5 goals in 21 stunning first-half minutes as they ran out easy winners in what was billed as a showdown for a top-4 spot. Jacob Murphy and Alexander Isak each scored twice as Joelinton added another as Newcastle caught through a porous visiting defense that was already under the spotlight from last week's defeat against Bournemouth. Hurricane pulled one back in the second half at St James's Park, but Callum Wilson added a 6th to complete the rout. shortly after coming off the bench. The embarrassing defeat is a significant blow to sports' dwindling hopes of securing Champions League qualification. But in contrast, the Magpies are now in a commanding position to finish in the top 4 as they climb to third.
Possibly, yeah. I thought we were ruthlessly efficient in front of goal. We were bright, really good with the ball, and really good off the ball in that early stage of the game. So it was great to see in such a big game as well us take control of the match like that. And I think when you're in my shoes, I don't necessarily think you ever build the big games up to be bigger than they are, because I think the media do a very good job of that for me. So I think it's about controlling what we do and making sure that we don't get caught in the emotion of the game and deliver the performance that we need to win it. It was important after Aston Villa, where we weren't ourselves probably for the first time this season. We fell below the expectations that we felt we are capable of giving. So we needed a response. The players were excellent in the week in terms of how we prepared for the game, trained really well, and delivered an outstanding performance today. Well, I hope he is, because he deserves to be. Brilliant attitude, always committed every day in training. He's excellent in what he gives us, and I'm delighted that he gets the plaudits today for the 2 goals, especially the second one was an incredible strike, and we see it from him a lot in training. He's an excellent finisher. So yeah, really pleased he's got the 2 goals. You might tell me that. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult one for me. I don't know the stats on that, but he's a vital player in our squad. He's whether he's started or come on a sub, he's always had a positive impact. It's always a challenge psychologically, I think, when the game from the outside seems like it's gone and we've won the game, but it's never that. I think you have that feeling when you're involved. So we needed to make sure we were committed to the second half. I think we were. We could have scored more goals. Tottenham are always dangerous. They've got world-class players in the front line, so we had to always be aware of what they're capable of. Yeah, Fabian looked like he was feeling something. I don't know the extent of that. Hopefully it's minor. Bruno was feeling his ankle, and Kieran was feeling something in his foot, I think. So look, we'll wait and see. Hopefully nothing too serious. Yeah, and another difficult game, and I think we went to Everton in a midweek game at the end of last season, and a very similar time of year, so we know what to expect, but we need to perform better than we did that day. Well, I think I'll enjoy it right this second. I've got a feeling of happiness for the team and for everyone connected with Newcastle, but in 10 minutes' time I'll be focused on Everton.
So tennis world number 1 against Swiatek defended a Stuttgart Open title with a straight set win over Aryna Sabalenka. Poland Swiatek defeated the Belarusian world number 2 6-3, 6-4 in a repeat of last year's final. It was her first tournament since recovering from a rib injury that forced her to miss the Billie Jean King Cup qualifiers and Miami Open. Swiatek is the first player to win back-to-back Stuttgart titles since Angelique Kerber in 2015 and 2016, with Sabalenka suffering a 3rd successive final defeat in the final. Swiatek is preparing to defend a French Open title at Roland Garros from the 28th of May.
And thank you to my family as well. My dad, he's gonna choose the car probably, so if he chooses wrong, it's his fault, but it's impossible to choose wrong in Porsche, so yeah, it's gonna be.
Elsewhere, Kenya's Kelvin Kiptum smashed compatriot Eliud Kipchoge's course record to win the men's London Marathon at the second fastest time ever. The 23-year-old was just 16 seconds outside Kipchoge's world record, finishing in 2 hours, 1 minute, 25 seconds. Sifan Azan, who won the 5,000 meters and 10,000 meters at the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, also produced a remarkable run to win the women's race. The 30-year-old Dutch Olympic track champion suffered with a hip injury, but battled to win on her debut at the distance. Britain's Mo Farah was 9th in his final London Marathon, with the 40-year-old 4-time Olympic champion revealing after the race that he would finish his career at the Great North Run in September.
For today, I'm very happy to run my second fastest time in history. My preparation was good, everything was going on well. My plan was to catch a water, but I missed. Unfortunately, I missed. I said, let me make a move, I try. The secret is training. I've been training a lot. Yeah, everything is good. My training, very okay.
I just can't
believe I win. Especially I'm the Olympic champion, I'm London Marathon champion, marathon of my dream. Even I really watch 2 hours something sitting down. I'll never forget in my life. And this is also the female is not just a runner. They are really great. It's amazing. Hard for me to explain. This morning I was like, I'm so stupid. Why I'm playing this kind of game? Who the hell I'm thinking that I want to run marathon? Not winning, I just can't believe I finished marathon. Somebody who worked to that, I was so scared. I'm not nervous, I was so scared. I really scared for.
And that's all these are. But before we go, here's a recap of our major stories. Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle has reinstated the Emir of Benin Yandoto Emirate, Aliyu Marafa, 9 months after conferring a traditional title, one of the most dreaded bandit kingpins in the state, Ado Aliero. 2 suspects, Ari Biolasende and Silifat Akombi, who are going for lesser age in Saudi Arabia, have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, in Lagos. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the February 25th general election, Peter Obi, has said politicians are using politics to sow seeds of discord amongst Nigerians. On the foreign scene, several countries have evacuated diplomats and citizens from Sudan's capital as fierce fighting continues to rage in Khartoum. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Okoye Muni. Thanks for watching.